Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Big thanks to everybody. We've been reading your comments under the last few videos we've been doing where we are decoding Trump orders and actions. We're very excited to be back with everyone. The reason that we have jumped back into the Trump decoding business is because, well, Trump is back in office and there is a lot to be said. And we know that the mainstream media will never be telling you how all of this fits and is connected. And we also seen over the last 4 years, 8 years even, that the alt media people who claim to be all, they're lagging so far behind. And so we hope that with these brief decodes, we're going to try to do them a few every week, that at least on the topics that I'm seeing of interest that people are talking about, that we have weighed in on it so you have some clarity. So today we're going to do the three things. We're going to look at the last three EOs that came, and these were basically on DEI and civil rights and, fair practices in hiring. We're going to review that. We are going to look at this AI thing that Larry Ellison wants to build. I should be better coordinated than this. Oh, that's the one. That's the big one. It's the big one, people. I want you to hear about this. It's called the Principal Committee.
Yeah. First off, there's another $500 billion Trump just got us. But remember, what is that? I was just talking with Michael McKibben. That was $500 billion, $500 billion spent to do what? To create something that doesn't exist. OpenAI is total nonsense, and Altman's nonsense, and Ellison's nonsense, and Oracle's nonsense. Oracle is just nothing more than new iterations of Michael McKibben's inventions. There is no such thing as super AI. Now, let me just straighten something out on this issue. When they say super AI, what they're insinuating is what DeepMind did, which was the first supposed artificial intelligence computer, and as far as I know, the only one. So anyone who tells you they're using AI, no, they're not. They're using applications, and they're using subroutines, and it's limited by the programmer who wrote it. None of those programs can write new programs. Now, they can write programs, subroutines for things that already exist. They can restyle it. It's just like ChatGPT. It's limited by where the initial database is that they're drawing their information from, and that's all human made. So there is not now, and never has been, even DeepMind was able to play 5 board games at once against 5 champions and win. And how did it win? Not because it was able to outthink them. It's because in the end it realized it was playing humans, and so it built in a default system to make mistakes that made no sense, that were random mistakes like humans make, and that is how it was able to win. It wasn't because the machine was able to think. Artificial mechanical intelligence is limited by human input. What you put in is what you get out. So giving $500 billion.
We're not giving it to them. They're bringing it in.
The little Talpiot dude, I was going to call him a derogatory name, Mishar, whatever his name was, who's giving the $500 billion. Ellison is just there to make it look like it's, and Altman too. Those guys are just there to make it look like it's somehow American. Those guys don't pay taxes. They're not Americans. Here's what I say. You're not an American if your corporation doesn't pay taxes, period. Done. And if you're involved in companies that you get income from that don't pay taxes, then you are in violation. That's where the External Revenue Service is going to make huge amounts of money. The only time I've seen Trump smile was when he was talking about there's the internal revenue system, which steals from Americans, and then there's the external revenue system that he used last time, too. That's nothing new. When he repatriated, untold amounts of money from people coming back and saying, I'd rather come back and pay this smaller amount of taxes you're allowing me, since I've never paid taxes before, than you going after me in another country and getting the full amount of taxes that I owe. That was a tax deal, okay? That's what this is. There is no super AI. Now, who touts that more than anyone? And by the way, besides Russia, no, I'd have to say, who's one of the largest 5 liars in the world? That would be China. And they lie all the time. They do not have a super AI. They do not have the missile system which we actually gave them, because they don't have the plasma shields that go on the front. So therefore, we can shoot them with plasma railguns. We can shoot them with plasma bombs. We can shoot them with filament plasma. So, all these things that they say they have, super AI, no, they don't. There's no such thing. There never will be a quantum computer. Go look it up. The quantum computer that IBM says they have is called Quantum One. It is made with integrated circuits.
Katz, you might remember we've done research on Ellison before, so you will find that if you type his name into the search bar at aimfortruth.org. And basically, he's just another CIA stooge, just like, Elon Musk is a stooge. They're all working for, really, it's the military-industrial complex, but they put this window dressing on like there is an owner and this is the personality. But when I read this, I wasn't really too concerned, Thomas, because I see $500 million coming in, so $500 million, and it'll create jobs, and we need jobs as long as it's not going to H-1B workers that are taking the IT jobs from our American labor force. So that money gets into the economy, and people have jobs. And then when you look and see what they're doing, are you kidding me? Who is going to participate in this transhuman agenda that they are advocating and they're putting through the medical system? You know what I'm talking about. You're not going to go and have poison put into your bloodstream. And I'm not going to any doctor who's got all this stuff in my medical record number hooked up into their beast system. So there's going to be a lot of pushback on this. But hey, in the meantime, get some American jobs going. And then finally, if Trump signs the Miller Act notice with Leader Technologies, which gives him the executive office, the master license to social networking, which was stolen from Michael. They didn't say it was national security. They just outright stole it, put it at open source, and let all these thugs come in and park their platforms on it. That's theft, and it needs to be corrected. And until then, let them build, let them spend all the money, and then let Trump sign the Miller Act notice and tell them what the rules of the game are now.
Well, I don't know where to jump in after that because, if it wasn't for Hollywood, we wouldn't believe, and the lies of the mainstream media, we wouldn't believe there are super AIs. We wouldn't believe there's AI. We wouldn't believe there's quantum computers. We wouldn't believe any of those. Those are that's hopium to try to bolster scientism, which is a religion of materialism that believes in impermanent theories, which in my opinion are, their best guesses, or in some cases just their fantasy. So most of what is happening out there that you think is already a done deal in the settled science never happened and never will happen.
After we recorded yesterday, Douglas was talking about the principal committee that is part of this National Security Council restructuring. And it was very interesting what he had to say. I went back and go, I didn't read it that way. Basically, this gives Trump the ability to speak to anybody he wants to when it comes to the intelligence that he's receiving.
Yeah, I want to back up just a second and say, finish the fact that Trump is accepting those 3 crazy people's hopium for tech that will, basically enslave humanity. And the top wave on that nonsense propaganda was that as soon as we get super AI, they'll be able to make better vaccines. Now that they've added fake messenger RNA, which technically doesn't do anything, and then they've tagged that on to cancer cures. That's why we have turbo cancer. Because did you know that the doctors are now giving out a vaccine for cancer? So as these things, are generated by super AI, there will be no morality involved in any decisions or innovations or new discoveries or experimentation, as we should be calling it. And there will be really no human consideration at the heart of any super AI that is ever created, but there are no computers that can think. There are computers that can synthesize things that already exist and draw down capacities from existing applications. And this is happening in the auto industry. It's happening in all industries. And so basically, it's nothing more than a toolkit, as they used to call them. So don't believe for a second that there'll ever be a super AI or that Ahriman is going to be able to incarnate into the internet. We are all being sucked into the internet. It doesn't come down to one being jumping in there and controlling the internet. No, the internet is that's what most of the money is being spent on. Did you hear their descriptions of what they call super AI? They called it, basically, they were saying they were going to use huge tracts of Texas and 5 facilities that are the biggest buildings ever built in human history. What are those? Those are computing centers. Those are cloud memory centers. There's nothing in the clouds. It's on the earth. And so what do they have to do? Well, what they had to do is take some more downgraded Ukrainian fissile material to put into the pellets that are going into the small modular nuclear power plants that have to sit next to these buildings so that they can control the memory, because they're through surveillance. And this is all about surveillance. The only super AI is total information awareness, now called Palantir, or many other thousands of names they have for it. But you can buy this. You can spy on anybody. You can get anybody's record. You just have to pay for it. And who's the head of that? That's Peter Thiel. And did he invent it? No. That is a DARPA project. All these are DARPA projects. Now, so don't worry about that. That was Trump doing a deal and taking $500 billion for America instead of letting those same 3 people go to China and have them do it. That's all that was. Another slap across the face of China. And no one has yet to realize, but in the Trump era, we're going to find out that China is collapsing. They are not a threat to us. Russia is collapsing. They are not a threat to us. There was never a war in Ukraine, except that the Ukrainians started a war against their own people. And then that's why they voted to go back into the U.S., back into Russia. So we have to look at these things. Now, Section B, point 1, Principals Committee Establishment. This is in the executive order. It's way down in the executive order, called Organization of the National Security Council and Subcommittees. Now, this is down in the section with incidental things, but this is the deal. And there's a word in here, and so I have to step back on something I said yesterday. When I said I assumed that it has to have been going on before, because he says shall continue. Okay, that could mean that previously I didn't notice this in a previous executive order of Trump's and his previous administration, because I don't know of this committee. And right here it says the Principals Committee, Section B, point 1, Principals Committee Establishment. Establishment. This may have never existed before except under him. And in the end, it is true that he only pulled in a couple people that he trusted, because that's all that could be trusted in this first administration. So, subsection A, point I, functions and responsibilities. The Principals Committee, in parentheses, PC, I love it, shall continue to serve as the cabinet-level senior interagency forum for considering policy issues that affect the national security interests of the United States. And they develop options and recommendations, and they are in control of Homeland Security, and on and on and on. You go, what? Oh, did I miss something? Has this ever existed before? What it's saying in here, much further down, and when you combine this with what's said above and below it, he can put anybody on this committee. Anybody. That means Elon Musk, who I said before was not going to be part of a true agency. No, he established the Doge, but it's established for 18 months in these executive orders. So you can't generally, because of security clearances, establish something in the federal government because everybody's already got their piece of the pie. And this new executive service is in charge of it all. And they can ignore the president if they want to. And they have their own union. And somebody's telling them what to do in their union. That would be Valerie Jarrett, Obama, Big Mike, and the rest of the Chicago Mafia gang that's down in Obama's house there, right down the street from the White House, which we paid $4.5 million to secure. And nobody lives in. It's an office for these people.
Okay, but what about the...
That's the U.S. Digital Service. He just pulled that in, and so he now has the power and the control. And this is the problem with them. They thought they were going to stay in control. Hillary was going to become president, and then they'd be Democrats for the rest of all time. No. So when they set that up, and they spent $1.5 billion on the U.S. Digital Service, which has now been changed over into the Efficiency Service, the DOGE, which is an Italian name for the most ruthless of organizations, bar except perhaps the Jesuits in all of history. And they were only in existence for 18 months, and they're going in there restructuring everything. But because they now can get through their security clearances, he can have anybody, because now they've bypassed the whole security clearance thing, because 1,400 people still weren't appointed that he suggested in his administration last time at the end of his 4 years. So now he's bypassing that. He knows all the things he has to bypass. And it doesn't matter whether it goes to the Supreme Court, because by then it will be done. He will have gotten done what he needed done. So he's restructured the entire intelligence community so that nobody's going to be listening on any of his calls in the future, and that he doesn't have to put up with these idiots that he witnessed in these impeachments against him during the Ukrainian nonsense or against the other impeachments. He doesn't have to even listen to the Congress and the Senate now. He's going to bypass them because he has streamlined the federal government to be controlled by one person, not by every silo, which was 204 different silos in the federal government. Everyone thought they were in charge.
I have to be really clear about that. He has streamlined the executive office.
Correct.
Because you see, from Obama on, they were taking that executive office and divvying up all the jobs and duties and creating this fourth branch of government. So like the FBI thought it was like the SS of America and the CIA. Where is that in the Constitution? Okay, these are all agencies that exist under the executive office. Trump is the man we put in that office, and we want to hear his one voice. And so what he's done with the realignment of the National Security Council is he's got a pecking order. If you're in the FBI and you really think that something should be heard by the president, you're going to have to go through the process to get that information to him. And anywhere and along the way, it could be rejected. So I don't know what Kash Patel is going to do over there at the FBI, except making sure that people aren't discarding all of the old notes they have that incriminate them.
Christopher Wray is taking all that evidence with him. Come on, that's the way that it works, Just like Robert Mueller gathered up all the evidence, including, Joseph Mifsud, and all the spies, all the things, Steele and Lisa Page and Strzok and all of it, gathered it up. I mean, just trillions amounts of evidence, exculpatory evidence, and hid it. And we, the people, paid for it. So all that's ended because he says he's going after the corrupt justice system. He's going to impeach people. He's going to
impeach judges?
Yes.
Good.
They will impeach judges, and people will then start to put it, and people like Gavin Newsom will be recalled again, and they'll do a paper ballot, and then he will be kicked out. Things like that, you see. But then again, Trump just, wants to use, basically he said there's no sanctuary cities anymore. Okay. Not only that, he says that anyone who aids them, that means any of the politicians or law enforcement that aid illegal aliens who are not documented, who do not have a green card, are committing a felony. And he's basically said he's not going to give them grant money. No, he needs to give them no money. He needs to cut them off of all federal support. Now, in some cases, that's good, like he's going to end the federal education department. Shouldn't be one. That's unconstitutional. The states, the reason you move to a different state is to get better education in some cases, or the religion that you want, or a certain law that you want. And if you want to have an abortion, then maybe you move to California, or if you want to have no taxes, you move to Florida and things like that. So he's basically reinstating law. And a lot of this stuff is not new. And so when he says that this principal counsel is going to continue, I don't know what he means, but it means he's got the secret privy council, which is beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Oh. So Trump has his own privy council, so to speak. Oh, very good. Now, when I saw this, and even the CIA has been defanged because they don't get a seat at the table and they don't get a vote. No. And this is very good. Now, remember, cats know that the FBI and the CIA are fronts for British Five Eyes. So the British don't have eyes and ears on us anymore in this new arrangement. But it got me thinking about John Ratcliffe, because he's been nominated for the CIA position. I haven't followed. Maybe he's already been approved, but I'm not sure. And I always thought John Ratcliffe would be instrumental over at the CIA because he knew how Crossfire Hurricane really went down, and he should also know that Robert Hannigan came over to meet John Brennan, and it was the two of them that wiretapped Trump Tower that got us all in this place, you know. And then, I mean, if Douglas and I could find the Russian hackers within an hour of it being reported, certainly John Ratcliffe saw that it was Dmitry Alperovich and that gang over there with the Atlantic Council. So these are easy things to spot. So then I go, well, is John Ratcliffe a wasted body over there at the CIA? Why would someone who knows so much be in such a job that is going to be irrelevant? Or is it?
Okay, so if you'd get a chance, take a look at this, because this is absolutely historic. And then it goes down to principals committee, attendees, and invitees. In section 1, principals committee attendees. Everybody's an attendee, but only if you're invited. Guess who's not invited? Number 1, the director of national intelligence. That's Clapper, and I have to cuss when I think of these people because they're pure evil. He looks like an ogre, for heaven's sakes.
But see, Trump's already taken out those guys. He's already taken out that flank of operatives by removing their security clearances, the 51, because you'll see Brennan, Clapper, all the names, they're there. And then he's taken out the 10,000 SES bureaucrat, you know, Obama's army. So he's neutralized them. So even before he hits the ground running, he's already started neutralizing the very people that attacked him in his first term.
I'm sorry, I'm going to laugh in your ear on number 2, which is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. People think that's the most powerful position in the whole world. He's not even on the principals committee. He's not an attendee, and he may not be an invitee. Do you understand how powerful that is? He just took the button back into his own hand, and the black football is now like he's carrying it himself. He doesn't even trust someone to carry it.
But I was asking about John Ratcliffe and the CIA.
DIA. I thought they appointed him as DIA, Director of National Intelligence.
CIA. John Ratcliffe is CIA.
They're not invited.
There you go.
They're not on the list.
Why has John Ratcliffe been placed over into an agency that's going to be worth shit?
Because he didn't really stand up for Trump. There were 3 sections of Ratcliffe. Ratcliffe stood up and I said, oh my gosh, he's incredible. And then for a while he was like on the border and not really with Trump, and then for Trump, and then kind of really weird out in space with Trump, and then now back he's an appointee. Well, guess what? None of those people mean anything anymore. They don't get to have black ops. They can't even put it on the agenda. And they can't vote on it. Okay, none of these people are voting members of the principal committee, and none of them are invitees. Let me go on with the list.
But they find out after they've accepted the nomination.
Because they're afterwards, because he signed it after he got inaugurated. Director of National Intelligence, we don't care about your opinion. The Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, go take a missile and stick it up your nose. The Director of Central Intelligence Agency, you're an Oh, well, I'll refrain from explicatives. The principal deputy national security advisor. So the second in charge, the national security advisor is supposed to be the second most powerful person unless the vice president is in the room, who's not on the committee but may be invited.
Okay.
Might be.
Might be.
Could be.
Could be.
Don't have a vote.
Like Trump says.
Don't have a vote, but they might be invited. He might listen to them.
It's a Trump maybe.
It's a Trump maybe.
Okay.
So these people may be invited.
But Douglas, this affects 3 people. Like Kristi Noem, she thought she's going over there to Homeland Security. She's going to wear her dangly earrings, her big puffy lips. She's going to put the boys right in place at the border. And it turns out Homeland Security has kind of basically been snuffed out of this picture too. And then, John Ratcliffe and Kash Patel over at the FBI. I mean, this guy makes himself so in front of you everywhere that he's going to be the best person for the FBI as he stands in front of his official portrait of a senior executive service flag. Hello, I'm really a British Pilgrim Society operative.
Remember, when Donald Trump says he's going to make a deal, that means he's going to screw you and you're going to like it. Kash Patel, bend over, because the only thing you're good at is puckering your lips, dude, and you do what I tell you. Every assignment that he had from Trump, he did nothing. Nothing, absolutely nothing when he was in those positions, some of the highest positions. So now these positions do not matter. Maybe will be invited the principal deputy national security advisor. That's the deputy security. That person in all these other administrations thought they were God. They didn't even tell the president what they were doing just so you'd have plausible deniability. And they literally say this to him, sir, I can't tell you. This is black ops, and you must have plausible deniability. There are no more of those. And what did he do? He turned and he said, somebody said something about, what are the damn drones? And he goes, oh, we can figure that out. And he's signing an executive order, talking to a person and says, turns to that crazy Susie and says, can't we get that information? Get that right now.
That's old news. Okay?
Yeah,
the newest news is that he hadn't done a damn thing about finding out what the drones are. Okay? He was sitting around a governor's table, and I was listening to all the governors complain what these drones are. And he's sitting up there going, well, we got to find out about them. Yeah. Now, look, I know you want to say something about it, but this is a good segue to let folks know that you are researching plasmoids and plasma, and he is like so totally consumed on it. It's really great stuff, but as we always like to do, we like to drop some articles and videos along the way so that you begin to see, kind of approach the material in a gentle way instead of being, bam, there it is, Douglas, with all this information in your head. So if you go over to Gab and you follow me at Gabriels_Horn, you'll see some of the videos that Douglas is recommending that we watch before he releases his own report.
These videos are based upon Robert Temple's book, A New Science of the Heaven, which is all about plasma, plasmoids, these light balls. And the reason that Trump doesn't know, okay, hang on, folks. Trump, since he's been the assumed president until he was inaugurated, was given the full briefing that the president was. In other words, he doesn't know. In other words, they don't know. I mean, that's just a fact. And what did all the people who came out of the briefing for the House Intelligence Committee say? They didn't tell us anything. Same thing with the Senate and the House. Nothing. Their big, long 2-hour briefing, what did they tell them? That they've been chasing Foo Fighters since 1954. Every time they go into space, plasma balls arrive, and they've been investigating them. They've done statistical analysis of them, and they are basically non-organic life that drops from the thermosphere into the mesosphere, into the stratosphere, into the troposphere. And they can't chase them because they go faster than light. They don't even seem to be material. They can turn on, they can turn off. They take on all the shapes that we call UFOs. So basically they said, period. This is what they said. And I've been saying this for some time, that they had said, the Department of Defense, full disclosure in front of the American people. And what did they say? We don't know what they are. Well, that's exactly the truth. They don't know what they are, and they've been chasing them all this time, since the 50s.
This is a very exciting subject, but we're not going to go any further with that. We'll save that when your research report comes out. So I want to go back now to what I said we would do 3 things. And the first was we're going to look at the executive orders that have to do with the elimination of this diversity, equity, and inclusion program, which is basically reverse discrimination. And I've read those 3 orders, and we'll sum it up by saying it ain't going to happen anymore. They've got to close shop. If you're in the government and you've got a DEI thing, you're closing shop. They're also going to send auditors out to look at the big companies to make sure that they're all shut down. Forget getting any kind of federal grants if you're running this program. And it is, as we always thought, it is reverse discrimination and primarily against the whites and males. So I'm glad to see that, Thomas. Really glad to see that one.
Well, let me finish my list of the maybes. Okay, maybe. I'm Trump. Okay, I'm going to be Trump now. Hey, Secretary, the only person I trust here in the White House, don't call any of these people for my next meeting. I'm calling them. And none of them work for the government. And by the way, that would include the Director of National Intelligence, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Director of the Central Intelligence Agency, the Principal Deputy National Security Advisor, the National Security Advisor to the Vice President, and the Executive Secretary, who's the principal note taker, the only person he trusts, who also will be in every, it says in here, Homeland Security meeting to make sure they don't do anything without him seeing the agenda before they do it. They can't do anything if it's not on the agenda. You can't put it on the agenda if you don't have voting power. None of these people have any voting power. I'm not done yet.
No, but
The assistant to the president and counselor to the president, the assistant to the president, the deputy chief of staff of policy, the assistant to the president for policy, the deputy counsel to the president for national security affairs and legal counsel to the National Security Advisory, the deputy committees, all these committees, all these people, nobody's invited. Nobody is invited unless he says they're invited.
they're getting babysitters. That's what these secretaries are. Explain that. Like if Kristi Noem has a meeting for some reason in Homeland Security, there's going to be a secretary there taking notes and then reporting back to the president.
And he has defined in this very executive order exactly how they must do everything. It is all committee based. It is all vote based. Everyone must state what they vote. He knows what everyone says on every issue. It can't be a policy issue unless it's already been on the agenda. Can't be on the agenda unless he's approved it on the agenda. It can't be on the agenda unless someone who's a voting member puts it on the requests it to be on the agenda. Okay, I have never in my years as a parliamentarian, paid parliamentarian, seen a tighter ship than this. This is the tightest ship I've ever seen. In other words, as I said before, intelligence community doesn't exist anymore. Period. Done. There'll be data, but only he will direct targeting. They'll still be surveilling, and it's unbelievable. Every one of these acts I could go down and I'd have to read between the lines for you. Like the free speech one. Well, they've been arguing for years. Are they a publisher or are they a platform? He just decided for them. Tough luck. He's decided everything. It's just done. No more laws. He's just told the agencies, because they've allowed the agencies to act as if they were making laws. So if he could tell the agencies what to do, it looks like he's making laws. He's not making laws. He's going back to the laws that exist. Except in this case, he's established the principals committee. And I've been a principal for, a lot of years. And I think he should put me on the principals committee. That's what I think. Because I could tell him about the globes, what they are, what plasmoids are, and what I have found out, folks, might be the most revolutionary. I thought what Gerald Pollack did with water was the most revolutionary scientific thing in modern history, and what Rudolf Steiner has given us his wisdom to look in the directions for new innovation. Steiner pointed in the direction, but he didn't quite go all the way. But it seems as if I found a few places where he has said the most amazing things. And now it seems as if science knows where life has come from. But it's not one stage like is in Robert Temple's book, A New Science of the Heavens. It's in 2 stages. And then you have to consider your relationship to the sun. So anyway, what this is really the beginning of a new spiritual biology that is going to blow people's minds. The 4th state of matter is the state of ascension. And what that means is there's plasma in the human body. We prove this. It's in all of our books. We have it in the books. We don't have to say, tell you it's new. We already told you what it was years ago.
Which is a perfect segue. I was going to say this on the videos because in the comments from the last two that we've dropped, people have asked, where have you been? Where have you been? Well, we've been very busy. During the Biden administration, of course, you will see our intelligence reports. They continued on. And then along with Michael McKibben and his team, we've got a new product out called My Skiff, and a recent new one. It's not quite released yet. It's called Message Vault. Message Vault? Yes, Vault. And that's going to be super cool. So we're just bypassing all their systems so that we can communicate with one another without the British spying, or anybody but the British. Go to ourspirit.com, because we've been writing books and assembling our work of over a decade into different lesson plans, so that if you want to know more about spiritual science, you can simply go down the page, look at the book that might be of interest to you. You click it on, and you'll go into a lesson plan where there are videos and a lot of free material that we've written on. But we also offer a book. Why a book? Because in this age of everything being digitalized, we need to get you a copy of something physical on your shelf about an important subject, and that is spiritual science. So that if all the lights go out, at least you've got these books so that you can carry on. But in the middle, you're going to see a collection that Michael Douglas and I have put together called The Truth Will Set You Free. And there was no way we could do a book on this. There's no way that Amazon could hold it. The printed pages would be too much. So it's all digital, and you're more than welcome to download that and share it with everyone you know. It's got all of our top research from the last decade plus on there. And I think this is a good time to wrap it up. What do you say?
Well, you said DEI, and I just glibly said that's not really anything new. That's just going back to constitutional non-discrimination. Some time ago, I got in big trouble with the Waldorf community because somebody showed me one of their DEI statements for their school that was in their handbook, which is the policy book. That's what goes to court. Okay, well, it was discrimination. So I wrote a nasty article, not totally nasty, but kind of nasty, telling them this is completely illegal. You will be sued for this. This cannot exist. And they were spending money at all levels and basically going totally DEI. Now, DEI is as discriminatory as it can possibly be, and it actually is mostly discriminatory towards the people of America, we the people, no matter what race you are. So that you would choose one race over another is discrimination. Now, before that, it came out, don't forget, and it failed as environmental, social, and governance, which I always like to say was they should have dropped the and. Environmental, social, governance. And who was doing the governance? Corporations. So if you didn't buy into ESG, and they just used the code words ESG, if you didn't buy into ESG, you couldn't do business with the big companies. And for a while, that really went along, and it caused this horrible thing to happen, so that then it started to collapse. The big banks started to say, we're out of ESG. We're no longer going to discriminate against you because you don't have ESG policies and you don't prove that you spend X amount of your income on ESG.
Because customers stopped buying the beer.
Correct. Because the people stood up against them and used the power of consumerism, which is all we are to them. We're nothing more than just consumers. So what happened? It went to DEI, and it became federal through the Biden administration, and which is really the Obama administration, which is really the Chicago Alansky mafia administration, and it's been consistent now. We've been devolving to the effects of communism for years now. And before that, it was the Bushism, and that was, of course, the fake capitalistic free market democracy. No, we are a constitutional republic. The Constitution has been lost in the White House for years. No one has a copy of it, obviously. Now, DEI goes down because constitutionally you cannot discriminate against people for any reason in America. Now, that has been taken as everything in modern life, and the truth has become falsehood, and falsehood has become truth. What has that become? That has become, what's it called? Groups of protected people who are small minorities who get more attention than the majority. Now, some would say that's liberalism. Some would say that's Fabianism. Some would say that's the Labour Party. So in England, some would say that's John Ruskin. Some would say, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. Any ism hasn't worked out now, has it? And scientism's not going to work out either. Okay. But when we say that we are doing this, and we can say that we have policies that demand we spend money to be discriminatory in a country where we have a constitution that says we're non-discriminatory, well, in the Bill of Rights, then what are we doing? We have a government that is an anti-government. And so because we are the only people for years and years and years, and Tyla, Betsy, oh my, Betsy Ross gave everybody hell before. She used to say, ask everyone you listen to on the thread that you type into, what do you say about the SES, the Senior Executive Service? Not one single person ever responded to even look it up on Wikipedia and find out that that is the shadow government. That's the deep state. And even in these documents I'm reading right here, whoever put these together, they called it the end. Trump can fire the deep state because now they are associating only now, because of Trump's actions. Does anyone even know the Senior Executive Service exists? 10,000 people that run the federal government that don't take their orders from the president or anybody else. They are unelected career officials, and they are monstrous. And what keeps them in place? Things. Oh, also notice he said in a very clever way, he said that basically quotas and any kind of discrimination at the college level or anywhere else will not be considered. That's no longer. It has always been illegal, and it will be considered illegal now. Also,
affirmative action's gone.
Affirmative action's gone. Boys and girls sharing bathrooms gone. Boys and girls in this, boys in or trans people, transgender people in other competitions, let's just call them. Most of them are, of course, athletic competitions. But all that's gone. Same thing with the military. No more ask, don't tell. No, none, gone. Two sexes, that's it. And I can tell you that makes sense. I was in the military, and they were, with male and female. I know what happens. I know that the studies that they say this is what happens, that is what happens. Okay. So now we're not going to see people in high positions who are transgender, because they're going to have to prove what sex they are. And if they haven't had a sex change, which they will have to be included because that was the past, but if they haven't had a sex change, then they're defying the president's orders. And if they happen to be in the executive branch, which most of them are, 4.5 million people work for the president, they can simply be fired. And now the rules for SES, firing, hiring, security, everything has all been changed up so that he can actually take an action in the White House without being impeached.